People in Wisconsin are using more energy than ever. And as we set new records for electricity use, we're pushing our power plants and transmission lines to their limits, especially during summer heat waves. At the same time, there's widespread opposition to the construction of new power plants and transmission lines. One solution can be found in the energy that's all around us, in the power of the sun, the wind, the earth, and fire. Wisconsin utilities are now harnessing more of these renewable sources of energy to generate clean electrical power. This program will show how energy users in Wisconsin are also tapping nearby sources of renewable energy to power their homes and businesses. It's energy that never runs out and can provide clean power for Wisconsin.
We're in Jacksonport, Wisconsin, which is right on Lake Michigan, up in Door County. We just stuck a bakery sign under the old town hall, and that's where the name came from. And we're running a small bakery that's also a little cafe and a restaurant. We supply the community with their fine baking and restaurant needs. We prepare food back there. That's what we do. And we're a food processing plant, which is the license for the baking. We have a 55-gallon hot water tank, and if there was an average morning where the folks will start baking, say by 9 o'clock, the hot water would be all used up. The first thing you have to decide when you are doing a solar project is, what do you want it to do for you? In this case, it was hot water, and I knew I needed extra hot water, and I knew it would save money by doing it, over time.
A solar hot water system consists of the solar collector, a pump and controller, a heat exchanger, a storage tank for heated water, all connected to a regular water heater. Inside the solar panels, a circulating fluid absorbs heat from the sun. The pump circulates the hot fluid through a heat exchanger that warms up cold water. When hot water is drawn from the conventional water heater, it's replenished with warm water from the solar storage tank.
That heat carries over to the next day, so it helps boost up the temperature, so it makes it work that much faster. So now, since we've done the solar, almost every month has been a noticeable change in the kilowatts used. We're doing all our own financing here to pay for the bakery and what it needs to run. Wisconsin Public Service made a low-interest loan, and that had a lot to do with saying, okay, now we can afford it, because that's one of the first obstacles you'd hit, to say, hey, this is going to cost this X amount, where you might not see the return for about 15 to 20 years. People live paycheck to paycheck, which I'm right in there with them, and it's hard to rationalize investing in something that's going to take 20 years to get back. But with a low interest loan, I'm in.
Wisconsin has a long history of water use for generating electricity due to the abundance of streams. Many towns formed around the water power sites because that meant a source of commerce, a source of inexpensive and clean energy. And so this would be very typical of other cities like Appleton and the Fox Valley, the Wisconsin River, some well-known river systems where there are many, many hydro plants still operable. Crowley is the lowest on the Flambeau in a series of 4 plants that were originally owned and operated by Flambeau Paper in Park Falls. Since approximately 1924, these facilities generated electricity here. The power is generated here in a rather simple way. The water above the dam is some 20 feet higher than this water, of course. The water enters a square room that we call a turbine pit. And in the bottom of that room is a round cast iron and steel turbine. The best way to describe that is it's an underwater windmill. That is attached to a large and thick shaft that goes up vertically to the generator. The generator, in turn, converts the mechanical rotational force into electricity with magnets and windings. This facility generates electricity at 2,400 volts. That is stepped up to 34,000 volts and transmitted into Park Falls to the paper mill, where it is used.
Back when they built these dams, operators lived at each of the dams, and we still do. We live at each of the dams so that we can keep an eye on things that are going on. We've added a few protective relays and communication devices, but basically this is original switchgear, original equipment. We're doing work on our transmission line, and for the maintenance people to safely work on the line, we have to shut these units down so that that portion of the line has no voltage on it and they can safely work on it. Prior to shutting the unit down, I opened the Tainer gate to match the flow of the water that was going through the turbines. Now I have going through the Tainer gate so that we can maintain a flow of the river downstream of us. What's going through the gate right now would probably be enough power to provide power to 250 homes.
It's a renewable. You simply use the water and its weight to generate electricity. It is a very positive recreational asset where it is developed appropriately. It's simple and it's very clean.
The principal benefit of the geothermal system is that we're taking about 2/3 to 3/4 of our total energy free from the ground. This will be a 17,000 square foot metal frame building for Jackson Electric Cooperative. And this building is going to be heated by geothermal heat pump equipment with closed ground loop. And right now we're in the process of laying the radiant floor tubing, which will be embedded in the concrete floor. And then the heat pumps will generate hot water, and that'll be circulated through the floor to heat the building. The ground temperature in our part of Wisconsin, and most of the state, when you get down below 10 feet or so, it's close to 50 degrees year-round. So what the heat pump does, it's nothing magical. It's as simple as a refrigeration system. Everybody has a refrigerator or an air conditioner, and it's basically the same principle. The heat pump is taking heat from the ground and absorbing that and dumping the heat into the building. In the summertime, the same process occurs, but it just reverses, where you're absorbing heat from the air inside the building or house, and then we're discharging the heat to the ground outside. So in the summer, we're taking advantage of the cool ground as a heat sink, and in the winter, we're taking advantage of the warmer, constant ground as our heat source. And the loops are buried about 8 to 9 feet deep here, and the pipes are about 1 foot to 1.5 feet apart on center. All that pipe is heat fused where it's connected underground, and then the 1.25-inch header pipes come into the building to feed each heat pump. The beauty of geothermal is it doesn't matter if it's sunny or dark, daytime, nighttime, windy, stormy, doesn't matter what the outside temperature is, the ground temperature is constant. So in this building, for every kilowatt of electricity that they buy, they'll be getting 3 kilowatts basically of energy free from the ground, and that's a renewable geothermal energy.
89, the federal government, EPA, said we cannot any longer produce smoke the way we had been in the past and just exhaust it into the atmosphere. Technology scrambled for a while to be able to take care of this, but they do it. They burn clean today. It's very simple. Air for combustion is actually entering in the back side of the stove. It goes along the back, and where you see this block here, across the front and here, that air is coming in, entering that area. Then it's coming up to the top inside of the stove, and then there's a manifold on both sides that are front to back, and then there's a series of tubes which have different size holes in them. So that air enters the bottom, and as it travels up through the system, it gets itself up to about 1200 degrees. Then that air is brought in and enters the box at the top, and if you have, again, the temperature of 1200 degrees or above, and you have smoke, which is a natural gas in a sense, and you mix those two and feed it oxygen, you naturally burn smoke. So that's all occurring over the top of the fire. This is the Ben Franklin stove. All it is a hole to build a fire in. Efficiency-wise, combustion-wise, it has, all it is room air into the combustion process and up the chimney. 40 to 50% of the available energy in wood is in the form of smoke, which is a gas. And that gas is what we're trying to do, or what we've done with the new stoves, is that when you burn that gas, you convert that to heat. That heat is then transferred into the house. So we're not just sending it out into the atmosphere. And when we put the new one in here, what he would burn in this stove in a period of, say, 3 hours will last us 7, 8 hours and totally heat this home. Towards you? We've created enough fire, generated enough heat within the box, that now we can start adjusting the air in and out. In other words, as we want to slow this down, we just push the air control in. I want to speed it up, I'll pull it back out. So I'm making that air get up to the top at a slower speed, and as it enters at a slower speed, it's at a higher temperature.
As I'm shutting down the handle a little bit, we're cutting it all the way down to just a little bit. Now we're just burning over the top. See? That's smoke burning now. Sort of like an aurora borealis.
What we want to try to do is get rid of the old polluting wood stoves that are really bad for the environment. And by doing what we're doing with this, we're helping the problem, because that stove obviously is going to pollute no more.
We're a hardwood lumber operation. We saw about 5 different species of trees into boards. In addition to the sawmill, we have dry kilns. We have a wood components manufacturing facility where we manufacture glued-up panels. We do just cut stock. We make a flooring product. We do moldings and trim. We also have a trucking and a veneer arm as part of our facility. We will blend together basically a combination of bark that's removed from the logs, as well as chips from some of our lesser grade species, as well as the grindings from our wood components facility. Utilize that as a fuel to heat our plant during the winter, to heat our truck shop during the winter, and to fuel our boilers all year round to run our dry kilns. We have basically 35,000 feet of 4-quarter green hard maple. It's at the start of a kill charge. It starts out at about 42% moisture content, and by the time it comes out of the charge, we reduce it to about 5.5% moisture content. We have 240,000 board feet of capacity in our kilns presently. Our kilns turn on hard maple about every 10 to 11 days. And so we're drying presently between 6.5 and 7 million feet of product a year. It's all being fueled by our wood biomass. When the boiler needs fuel, the crane is instructed to go out. It sees the pile in rows and columns and senses the depth. and basically then picks up a scoop of fuel and puts it in a hopper that ultimately is fed to the boiler with a push stoker mechanism. Reduces our cost of energy, particularly for the dry kilns, appreciably. We can do with bark probably, just an estimate, perhaps 50 times what we could do with natural gas by way of cost equivalent. So from an economic standpoint, it's a great savings to us.
If we look at buildings before World War II, before we had fluorescent lights and interior air conditioning, architectural design had to provide these functions. It had to figure out a way to allow natural light to come into the building, and we had to figure out ways to stay cool naturally during the overheated parts of the year. You can look at nearly any building from that period and see these influences on architectural design, but perhaps one of the greatest examples is Frank Lloyd Wright's Unitarian Meeting House. Wright was a master of the overhang. In fact, he pioneered it with his prairie style. And the overhangs were not built just to shade the direct sunlight off the glass, but they were also used as a primary way to bounce soft diffuse light into the room itself for high-quality daylighting distribution. In this particular case, I think you can probably see with my hand up here that there is a large amount of ground-reflected light that's coming up here and being bounced straight towards the windows. It's not really the intent to bring in direct sunlight. That's too much glare, too much heat. Then the windows themselves are broken down to help admit daylight in a useful way. We have a view window below with a clear story up above. And you'll see in most historic buildings that we didn't just have punched openings like we have now, but we actually have windows of different purposes. The view window below is to provide that access for people on the inside to look out. The clear story above, though, is to provide light high at the ceiling, to light that upper portion of the ceiling and provide a sense of brightness within the room itself. When we move inside, we can see cool daylighting at its best in this beautiful little corridor. The light is coming off the ground because we've so well shaded it outside. In fact, most of the light on the outside is in shadow. It's not even direct sunlight on the ground. And I think everyone can see that that light is coming through. It skims along the soffit in the ceiling and lights the ceiling. And that's the most valuable place for daylighting to be in a room. It gives a cheerful feeling to a space when the ceiling is bright and luminous. These same principles can be used with contemporary materials and make extremely energy-efficient buildings that people love to be in. The Harmony Library is a modest cost library in Fort Collins, Colorado that utilizes these same principles. High-tech glass and overhangs are used, as well as the right type of electric light to get just a little supplemental light in the daytime with still having electric light that can be used at night. People love to be in this space, and we've reduced peak power capacity by about half, and we reduce annual energy use almost by half. Very, very profound impacts considering that it didn't cost a dime more than standard construction. All we're simply doing is inviting light to come in a very high quality way so that the space is very comfortable, but also do it in a way that eliminates all unwanted solar heat gains. We can actually downsize the HVAC system sufficiently to pay for all the daylighting components that we're putting on the building. So in essence, right now, we can reduce primary energy use over the life of a commercial building by about 50% without increasing first cost at all.
We built this building in 1995-96 to house the Wisconsin Housing and Economic Development Authority, the Department of Commerce, Forward, and the Department of Tourism. And as we were in the process of building, it was quite obvious that we were going to have a flat roof like most other commercial buildings do. That seemed to be an ideal place to install a photovoltaic array and take advantage of the great power that the sun is giving us to supplement the power we were getting from Madison Gas and Electric. In most commercial and industrial buildings, the rooftops are flat. It's a space that nobody sees, and so that the placement of photovoltaic panels would not be objectionable to anybody and yet would generate a significant amount of energy that could help supplement the fossil fuel generated power. Particularly if you look at the cold center, there's a tremendous amount of space up there that PV arrays could be placed on without any significant cost or modification to the building for the current building owners.
Basically, they're real low maintenance. We clean them at least twice a year. Periodically, we check them. If they need it more than twice, we take care of it, checking the system inside the device to make sure that it's properly charging and not giving us any error signals. That's about it.
This array is designed to generate 6 kilowatts of power at its peak performance, which would be at a time like this. It creates a very small portion of the power that this building uses, and what we do is the power that we're generating is pumped back into the grid. Madison Gas and Electric gives us a rebate for the power that we generate, and it's a discount on our monthly bill. It's not the size of the power that we're generating. We're trying to say, gee, will the rest of us all take a look at this and think about how it might help us in the future?
Before you use renewables in any other way, the most cost-effective way to deal with energy use is to conserve. We do two things when we build normally. We thicken the wall, and so we have, in this house, we have a 7-inch thick wall cavity with blown-in fiberglass insulation, and we have a continuous integrated vapor barrier from below the slab all the way up through the ceiling. If we add some active solar or some window treatments like window quilts and things like that, we can push the houses up to the very high end of the 5-star plus rating, including we've built the house that's the highest rated house in the state of Wisconsin when we've added active solar to that other stuff. We also like to add renewable-based heating systems, and so what you see here is the core of a masonry heater, and a masonry heater is a wood-burning fireplace-style high-efficiency wood stove. You basically fill the firebox with wood. You light it off and burn it, and it'll burn quite intensely for about 3 hours. And then the heat that's been captured in the mass of the stove, and the stoves weigh 2 to 3 tons usually, is released over a 12 to 24-hour period into the room.
The heat has just been building up inside of it, and then for the next 12 to 24 hours it pays us back in a way that's really gentle. In fact, when we're so inclined, we even hug it, because it's really kind of a huggable, gentle giant, we call it.
We loaded windows on the south within the limits of a normal house design as much as we could. We have less windows on the west and somewhat more windows on the east. And so this is a real nice, simple, passive solar design. It works quite well for them. They're real happy with it.
Even on a very cold day, it's really quite warm in here. In fact, it tends to be on coldest days you get more sun. So the colder it is outside, the warmer it is we're in the house, usually.
I think what's changed in our assumptions about passive solar design is that what we've come to value more is daylighting, and we've chosen to put the most highly used rooms, the living room, kitchen, dining room spaces, family room spaces, on the south side of the house, and to window them heavily so that we have daylighting. Because in normal construction, whatever heat gain we get in the daytime is pretty much zeroed out by heat loss through those same windows at night. Even good windows lose a lot more heat than the walls do. And so the best thing we can do, everyone likes to have daylighting and everyone likes to have a lot of windows, is to try and, if we're going to put windows in a house, put them where at least they're going to do some good in terms of daytime heat gain.
We were really interested in demonstrating that you could take a pretty much conventional house and live off the grid, generate your own power, and still be very comfortable. We have a hybrid system of both wind and solar. We have a 1 kW wind generator that's on a tip-up tower, so we can do easy maintenance. We also have 20 60-watt photovoltaic or PV panels that provide electricity for us as well. When the wind's not blowing and when the sun's not shining, we have a 5 kW LP generator that is in the garage that provides our backup power for us. Okay, we have a pretty much conventional kitchen. We have a dishwasher, coffee pot. The stove that we have is a gas stove, but it's pretty much a conventional, bought off the showroom floor. One of the things that is different is our refrigerator. This is a refrigerator that runs off of DC power, so directly off of our batteries. Has a little more insulation and is a little more efficient than the conventional refrigerator. We also have a microwave, so we have pretty much all the modern conveniences of any other home. We went to the Alternative Energy Fair and went to a lot of seminars to try to learn about the different technologies and different choices that we had to make in the system. The power from the PV panels, that's generated as DC power, so that comes in through this heavier cable into the control panel. The control panel here is actually what controls and monitors the whole system. This is the battery room where we store the power that's generated through the PV panels and the wind generator. We have 24 6-volt batteries. It's really just used to store up the power, and when we need to use the electricity in the house, it comes directly from the battery packs. This is what we use to monitor our electric system. We can tell our battery voltage, how much we have stored up in the batteries, and our consumption, so how much we're using and how much we're generating. We also have an anemometer that tells us what the wind speed is up on the wind generator tower. It really keys you into your environment. When you watch the news, the 10 o'clock news at night, you're looking to see what the forecast is for how many cloudy days in a row there's going to be, or what the predicted wind speeds are going to be. And your life then ends up reflecting whatever it is that's going on. The days that we do our laundry are usually the days that are sunny and windy when we have a lot of power, because it takes a lot of electricity to pump water. And so if we're low on power, we usually choose not to do our laundry that day. We've said that living with this kind of power is not for the faint of heart. You have to be pretty dedicated and willing to make choices on how you're going to live in order to live with that kind of power. On days like today, when the sun's shining and the wind's blowing, you get a lot of satisfaction out of knowing that you're pretty much self-sufficient.
This program has shown a few of the many ways people can harness the power of renewable energy to help run their homes and businesses. Renewable energy is clean, it never runs out, and will provide Wisconsin with a more secure energy future.